Hi, welcome to the Yarn and Yarns YouTube channel. My name is Angela and all the places you can find me should be linked below in the description box. I'm most active on Instagram, where you'll find me as both Rainbow Ange and Yarn and Yarns. Yarn and Yarns is the name of the shop that I run, a little bricks and mortar yarn shop based in South Wales, just outside of Cardiff here in the UK. I live here with my partner James and our little cat Newt, who sometimes makes an appearance on these videos. Mostly she is heard rather than seen. I think today is going to be quite a short video. Usually you'll find me chatting about my adventures in knitting and crochet and spinning. I don't have any crochet to share this week, so it's just some knitting and spinning. And I've also had a shorter amount of time to work on my projects this week. It's a bank holiday weekend here in the UK. I usually record on Sunday, so I recorded last Sunday and then worked on my whips that I fancied working on this week up until Thursday, and then I decided I was going to have a bit of a cast on party over the weekend. I haven't made as much progress on that as I hoped, as I've not been feeling particularly well. I was okay on Friday, but then on Saturday and particularly yesterday, I've just not really been feeling myself. I'm still not back up to full capacity today, but I figured I'd record a quick video anyway. I had been planning to record alongside this some details of my cast-ons. I've got a little bit of footage, but I don't know whether it's actually going to make it into a video. I'll see what else I can get recorded today, but my head's still very woolly. So yeah, I'm anticipating this being a fairly short video this week. I did want to say a great big hello to any new viewers out there. I think we've got a few new subscribers this week, so I appreciate you coming over to join us, and of course welcome back to people who have been here before. I really do appreciate you spending a little bit of your week with me. It's always nice for me to know that I get to spend some time with some of my lovely knitting community out there. The highlights of doing this is the people that I've got to meet both in person and online along the way. As I say, this week no crochet. I've got a little bit of knitting, I've got some spinning, but my spinning segment is a little bit different this week as well. And I'm also going to show you a little bit of mending and a couple of acquisitions that I made, just to add a little bit extra really to the content, because I know it's going to be pretty short. I think this week I'm going to start with spinning. So I'm going to insert my spinning segment here. For my spinning section this week, I thought I'd do something a little bit different. This week I'm trying to work on some of my oldest projects. That means that in the background here I'm working on my Llanwenog fibre, but I've shown that fibre and you've seen that fibre many times before. On the weeks that I do work on that fibre, I also try and work on something else alongside it. So this week I have decided to pull out a bump of fibre from the little fibre stash that I'm trying to spin through this year. So I've picked out this fondant fibre fuzzling. And in the past I would have just started spinning and away I go. But I have been watching the spinning with dyed fibre class on Blueprint, which was Craftsy, by Felicia Lowe, and I'm also reading a book that I have in my book library here at home called Yarnitecture, and it's all about thinking about spinning up yarn with purpose from your fibre. So I thought about how I wanted to spin this little bump. So they come sort of rolled up in these little balls, but as I opened up the fibre, as you can see, it's got a few different colours blended together. There's some white, there's some orange and red, there's even a little bit of lilac-y purple in places. There's also some nice deep brown. So as I'm quite a new spinner, in the past what I've just done is spread this fibre out and then started to split it vertically however it wants to come. However, if I did that with this fibre, as you can see here, it's sort of splitting apart here, I might get one chunk that's entirely red or orange, and I don't really want that in this yarn. These colours are quite contrasty, so when I spin this up, I don't necessarily want a large chunk of white and then a smaller chunk of the red and the orange. I don't know how that would work up into yarn and how that would knit up, and I'm not sure that I would like that effect. So for this fibre, I am going to break off some hanks. Rather than split vertically, I am going to break off some hanks vertically. So I'm going to start pulling chunks off a bit like that, and then I shall pre-draft those, so I'll pull them out a bit more and then start spinning them, and hopefully that will mean that I'll get sections of these bright colours throughout. Now that will muddy up the colours slightly, but I don't mind that at all. I think one of the fun things about spinning is you never know exactly what you're going to get. But yeah, I thought I would just talk you through my thought process with regards to this bumper fibre. I have started spinning it, and this is what it is looking like so far. So I'm definitely getting pops of colour throughout, which is really nice. As I say, I think the sort of the starkness of that white fibre against the brightness of the orange, I think it would just be too jarring if I had sort of sections of one colour and another. And actually I'm going to go and grab one of my gnomes, because I can maybe explain a little bit more what I'm talking about in terms of sectioning out those colours. This is the gnome that I've most recently knit up. This is a pattern from Imagine Landscapes, who is Sarah Shearer, and this was her mystery gnome along, and her body is kind of an example of what I'm talking about. So this body was actually knit from another bump of fondant fibre, fuzzling she calls those, and this one had purples and greens and a few sort of pinky colours in, and I did go ahead and split the bump vertically, and that meant, as you can see, I got sections of the different colours, which is a nice effect. It sort of gives a self-striping effect. This yarn I spun as singles, so you can really see how this fibre sort of sectioned off in terms of colour. On the bottom it started to become a bit more mild. Now had I applied this fibre, unless I had chain plied it or Navajo plied it, then all of these colours would have mixed in. And for this colourway, I am quite happy with this self-striping effect. I think all of these colours look lovely together, and I'm really pleased with how she turned out. But for this particular colourway, as I said earlier, I think the contrast between that white and then the brighter colours and then this sort of pastel-y almost brown, a soft brown, I don't think I would have personally, for me, liked that sort of striping effect. So that's why I want to try and split this up so that these bright pops of colours mix in with the lighter colours. I'm not sure if I will be able to spin up this entire bump of fibre this week alongside my Lanwenog spinning. There's about 18 grams of fibre here, so a fair chunk. But at some point I will come back and report back. I may get this spun, but I might not get it plied. But I will keep reporting in, and at some point I will knit this fibre up so we can see what we get from beginnings of this little lovely bat of fibre, and how that transforms into knitted fabric once we get there. I thought you might also be interested to see how a bit of pre-drafting affects the fibres. So this is the mini bat all spread out, and I've done nothing to this other than just separate it. It was in a really tight curly ball. I've just separated it out a little bit. As you can see, there's really big chunks of these bright colours and then the white fibre, which is quite a stark contrast. Now you saw me earlier pull off a little chunk from the end of this fibre, and I've started to pre-draft that. It's now on the spindle, but I think you can start to see the difference and how these colours are starting to blend into each other. So rather than these really bright pops of contrasty colour, we're starting to get something a little bit more muted as those fibres blend and tangle together, and obviously that is going to translate when I'm spinning. So the colours are starting to merge together and create something that's a little bit more muted than the original fibre as seen. So I hope you are finding this somewhat interesting. I am, as you know, an inexperienced spinner. I have done a reasonable amount of drop spinning now, but by no means am I any sort of expert, but I am still very much learning, and I thought maybe you would find some of my learning experiences interesting too. I've spun up the majority of this fibre now. As you can see, it's here on my spindle. I've got some sections of white, some of the orangey red, and then a few bits here in the middle. You can see they're starting to marl together. So I'm going to wind that off the spindle now and two-ply it with itself, which will hopefully give me a nice sort of marled yarn with the colours mixed up. I also decided, as a bit of a fun experiment, to reserve a little bit of the fibre. So I've got about 3 grams of my original 18 grams here, and I've started to split it out into piles of the sort of dominant colours, and I thought I'd spin that a little bit differently. So instead of pulling off the bits horizontally and mixing the colours as I did for the bit on my spindle, I'm going to spin these in colour repeats, and I'll probably keep them as singles, so I'll spin them a little bit thicker, and it's not going to leave me with a massive amount of yarn, but I thought it would be fun to knit up a little swatch of this yarn, and then a little swatch of the yarn that I get from this spinning method, just to have a little comparison of whether we can get some different looking yarns from the same bump of fibre just by treating them differently and preparing them slightly differently. I've finished spinning up my bump of fibre this week for my spinning experiment, and I have managed to ply the section that I was going to two-ply together as well, so I'm pretty pleased with the progress that I've made. So this is the yarn that I spun just by pulling out vertically sort of clumps of the fibre and just spinning it as it came, so all of the colours mixed together. And then I've got this much smaller little bump from the sort of 2 or 3 grams of fibre that I decided to pull apart and spin in colour order. So I'm just going to show a little bit more of a close-up video of these two together. So here are the 2 yarns that I've finished side by side. I think you can see a little bit of a difference between them in the skeins. So this one is the little bit of fibre that I pulled off and plied by the colours, and then this one here at the back is obviously the larger section that I just spun up in without sort of paying attention to the colour progression. And I think you can see that there are sort of big bits of colour in this one versus a much sort of more mild texture in that second one. I enjoyed that. Something a little bit different than my usual segment for spinning. I haven't yet got round to casting on those yarns. It was one of the things I was hoping to do this weekend, but as I say, I've not been at full capacity. But I'll certainly try and get something on the needles with those yarns in the coming week, because I think it will be fun for me to see, if not you guys. Hopefully you'll get some enjoyment out of it, how those yarns are going to work up slightly differently, hopefully, to each other. I think I'll chat to you quickly about mending this week. The lovely Mars, who is Hey Brownberry everywhere on the internet, has been recently running a Finally Fix It cal, hashtag Finally Fix It, where she's encouraging us to mend and make alterations to projects that we've finished, but for whatever reason we haven't been using. And I'm not entirely sure if the cal is still running, but it is certainly encouraging me to work on some things that I've had lying around the house for a little while that have needed some attention. So this last week I did a little bit of darning on a lovely sock of mine, So this is a pair of Rose City roller socks that I knit up a couple of years ago. This lovely yarn here was given to me by my friend Lisa, who is Use Your Yarn. Hi Lisa, if you're watching. I'm not entirely sure what the fibre content of this yarn is, whether it does have any nylon content, but this is the first pair of socks that I have had that I've actually worn through. So I had discovered when I went to put these on at the end of last summer that there was a hole, and this hole is kind of on the bottom, on the ball of my foot. So I put them to one side. They just sat on my bedside cabinet actually, waiting for me to do something with. So last week I finally picked them up and I darned over the little hole. So that's the outside of the sock. I decided to use a nice bright contrast orange thread to do a bit of visible mending, and then I decided to go around the edge of the hole with a couple of rows of running stitch just to make a bit of a feature of it. That is somewhat successful across the sort of stitches that go over the top of the hole, but the ones that go down the length of the hole have gotten a little bit lost in that knit fabric, so not entirely as I had envisioned it. But these socks are certainly wearable now. I'll just turn this inside out as well so you can see the darn from the inside. I think it's a bit more visible from the inside. So just did a traditional darn where you sew up and down across the hole, and then you weave in and out to patch that up. So yeah, I'm excited to be able to put these back into rotation now. I've been wearing my shorter socks a little bit more this week as the weather has warmed up, and we've actually had a really beautiful weekend here. The sun has been shining. It's not quite as bright today, it's a little bit overcast, but it's still nice and warm. So I definitely need to actually knit up a couple more pairs of short socks, but I'm glad to have fixed these to get these back into my rotation. The other sock is wearing a little bit thin in places as well, so it wouldn't surprise me if I end up over this summer season putting in a couple more darns into this pair of socks. But I love them. They were a Doctor Who themed yarn, and I love Doctor Who, so yeah, I'm really happy to have those back in rotation. And that literally, I think it took me like half an hour to do that fix. I don't know why they've been sat there so long. I guess partly because over the winter I've not been wearing my short socks. Yeah, it was just a little bit of fun mending that I embarked upon since I last spoke to you. I think I'll talk to you about my acquisitions next, and then I'll do the knitting last. So on Saturday I went out to a little craft market here over in Cardiff at a sports centre in Roath, and my lovely friend Miranda, who is by Miranda May, was vending at the craft market. So I went over. It was her first time vending there, so I thought I'd pop on over just to support her a little bit and have a look round. It's a very small market, and there was quite a nice variety of jewellery makers. There were some ceramicists, some needle felters, there was a wood turner, some card makers, and a couple of people who were selling knitted and crocheted items ready made. So I picked up a couple of things at the market. The first thing I purchased was from Miranda, and it's this lovely mini skein set. These are her Friends colourways, so they're all colourways inspired by the TV series Friends. And this is something new. These are a mini set, if that makes sense. So in the past she's had some 20-gram minis in a set, and these are all 10 grams. So there's 50 grams total here in all of these lovely colourways. And I thought this would be perfect to make a pair of stripy shorty socks for myself for summer. As I've already mentioned, I want to make myself a couple more pairs of those for the summer, so I thought that would be a really fun way of doing that, is to pick up a few minis and just stripe them together. So I'm looking forward to starting those soon. And then I also picked up a lovely little bag from another local maker called In Tiny. I don't know if I have said that correctly, but that's the little label there, In Tiny. And she was selling a few of these. She was primarily a needle felter, but she had a few of these little zipper pouches with some needle felted flowers on, and this was really reasonable. I thought it was it cost me £7 for this bag, for a lovely recycled Welsh wool blanket and this beautiful needle felted flower. It's quite a small bag. It's fairly comparable in size to, I'm looking around to see if that's right over the other side of the room, to the little TARDIS bag that I showed this week. So I'll definitely be able to use this for a pair of socks. So I'm thinking that the first project to go in there, I'm going to wind up these minis, and I think my first project in this bag will be this lovely pair of shorty socks. I think they go quite nicely together. There are obviously a couple of red tones in the minis, so yeah, I'm looking forward to pairing those and getting a project on the needles. I did also purchase myself some gorgeous and naturally dyed yarns this week, but I'm going to talk about those in my cast on video if I manage to make enough content for that. If I don't, then I'll chat about them at some point in the future. So yeah, that's everything for things that I have rehomed. Some lovely things have come my way this week. Finally, on to knitting, and as I say, I only worked on projects for 4 days this week before starting my cast on party this weekend. And I only worked on 2 projects, which is really unusual for me. So no finished objects this week, just 2 works in progress. I feel like I have been practically monogamous this week, which is pretty unheard of. So first project to share with you is living in this project bag that I made for myself ages ago. It's beautiful, bright, fun orange flower fabric. It sort of reminded me of a very sort of retro Mary Quant type print, which I really loved. And this is one of the first project bags I've made, so there's no interfacing. It's pretty floppy, but it's great for folding up and putting in bags and carrying with you. And in this bag are living my blueberry waffle socks. I started these a few weeks ago from some lovely yarn that was sent to me by the wonderful Caroline, who is Colourful Creativity, and she sent me a couple of packages and we've done a swap. And she sent me a beautiful skein of one of her hand-dyed yarns, and this is in her pumpkin pie colourway, I think. I'll put a correction below the video here if that's wrong, but Caroline let me know that this is one of the first skeins of the colourway that she dyed, and she's made a few tweaks to it since. So if you go to her shop and pick up a skein of this, you might not get exactly the same results as I am getting for my socks. I decided to cast on a pair of blueberry waffle socks, which is a really nice simple textured pattern. And I think last time I showed you, I forgot to put in my marker. I think I may have been somewhere approaching the toe on the first sock. So the first sock is now finished, and I'm getting all of this really fun pulling across the sock, which I absolutely love. I really love this bit. Sadly, it's on the bottom of the foot, but never mind. So yeah, the blueberry waffle is just this really nice kind of ribbed textured stitch. So that is the first sock, and I am well underway for the second sock, and of course I am in the middle of a row, so just bear with me 1 second. I'm going to knit across this row so I can show you my progress quickly. I'm really pretty good about making sure I am at the end of a row before I put a project away, but James and I have been trying to get out to enjoy some of this nice weather over the weekend, and despite not feeling too great yesterday, we popped out for a walk down to the seafront here and we grabbed an ice cream, which was really nice. Yeah, I just put my sock down when he was ready to go, hence why I was in the middle of a row. So this is my progress on the second sock. I have knit down the leg, I've popped in a fish lips kiss heel, and I'm now working my way down the foot. This is a really fun pattern. It's a 4-row pattern repeat. I'm sure many of you out there, if you're sock knitters, will have knit this. It's a really popular free pattern. It gives such a nice sort of squishy, springy sock. I really love it. and it's been ages since I knit a blueberry waffle sock, so I'm really enjoying working on these, and I think it's very likely that these will be finished this week. It's very easy to set myself a little daily goal of knitting so many pattern repeats, so I think I will sit down and work out how many repeats I've got left, and set myself a goal of having, you know, doing so many rows a day so that this gets finished before the end of the week. I've got my little fun progress keeper on here, which was a gift from my friend Courtney, who is Unravel an Elephant, and I love him. He's like a little yellow sort of ghosty, but perfect for this kind of Eastery time of year, spring colours. He's lovely. He sparkles too, but I don't think that will show up on my phone. If the camera is not the best for detail things. It's quite old now, my camera, quite a few years old. So that's it for my blueberry waffle socks. And then I only knit on one other project, which, as I say, is pretty unheard of for me, which is why I'm feeling quite monogamous. Which I know is ridiculous because I've just showed you 2 projects, but in my head, in my head. So I picked up a project this week that has not seen any work on it for ages, and the project lives in this lovely bag from the Fawn and Fox, which I bought a while ago. It's a nice big bag with a lovely sort of canvasy or heavy cotton bottom, and it's got these fun skeletons and roses on the design there. And this is a shawl, and it is the Chances wrap by Charlotte Boré, who I think is Charlotte and Gus all over the internet. And this is a lovely brioche wrap, and I just love this so much. I always love working on this, and I don't know why it's taking me so long. I think it's just, well, I have so many projects on the go. I pick up a project and I love working on it, and then obviously it goes away for a little while, and then the next thing captures my imagination, and I love working on whatever it happens to be. So some things just get pushed back on the rotation, and yeah, when I pick them up and rediscover them, I remember how much I enjoy working on them. So I've got a little octopus progress keeper. This is where the project was when I picked it up this week, so I'll show you what I had knitted previous to this. So it's a really long wrap done in 4 different colours, with various brioche techniques scattered in the different sections. So that's what I already had done. There is my marker before I picked it up this week, and this is the progress that I've made this week. So as you can see, I've put lots of work on it. This section here, this yellow section in the middle, marks the middle of the shawl. So about here is the midpoint, and now I am basically working back out, working these sort of same wedges. So as you can see, yellow, dark grey, yellow, dark grey. Gone into a section of the lighter grey now, so I'm going to be working sort of backwards through this colour sequence to get this wrap done. So there's still a fair bit of knitting, but the lovely thing about a lot of Charlotte's patterns is when she had her podcast, she doesn't do it anymore, but I remember her saying that she liked wearing shawls, but she didn't enjoy the sort of traditional like crescent style shawls or the triangular shawls where you end up with hundreds and hundreds of stitches on the needle. So I think she's got a few different designs, and they're all worked more like a wrap or a sort of scarf, although this does have a sort of a shallow wedge design. So you are increasing and decreasing, but you only ever have you know, a relatively small amount of stitches on the needles. So yeah, this is just so squishy. I love this colour combination. As I haven't shown it for a while, I'll run through the colours that I'm using. So this one is from Yantan Tetherer Yarns, who is Helen, and it's in her Pedero base, which is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, and this is the cornstalk colourway, this lovely vibrant yellow. I love this one. The second one that I'm using is this lovely sort of more pastel yellow, but with these gorgeous shots of orange and golden yellows and blues in the yarn. And that one was a gift from my lovely friend Erin, who is Dufferin24, and Erin has a lovely video channel here on YouTube called This Knitting Life, I think. I'll put a link in the description box below. And Erin lives in Canada, and we often send each other little packages and swaps, and she sent me this lovely skein of yarn by Quadrant of Colours, and this is called the Blue Boar, and I believe this is a Agatha Christie reference. I am sad to say I have never read an Agatha Christie novel, but Erin is super obsessed with Agatha Christie, and she had a brilliant episode, not her most recent one but the one before, where she chatted about some lovely Agatha Christie inspired patterns and yarns that she has in her stash. So if you are a fan, then I would urge you to and even if you're not, I would urge you to go and check that episode out. So yeah, this is the actual skein that inspired me to start this shawl. I built the rest of my colour combinations around this beautiful yarn, because I wanted to use this special skein that had been sent to me by a lovely friend. I also have a skein of Countess Ablaze in this wrap. So this has got some greys and some lovely sort of deep shots of blue in it. This is from one of her limited edition collections that she had a couple of years ago. These were all inspired by the Odyssey, which is a book by Homer, classical book, and I did classics at university. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that on the videos before. I probably have. So when the Countess had this club, it wasn't a club, she just she was dyeing up yarns I think every month, and it was kind of a bit of a first come first served when she released the yarns. I've got quite a few skeins of these limited editions in my stash. This one is called Dark Clouded Sun of Kronos, and it's on her mohair sock base, which is 55% merino, 25 nylon, 20% mohair. So, and it's a light fingering. It's 500 meters for 100 grams. And yeah, I love this colourway, it's gorgeous. And then the final yarn is another one from Helen, Yantan Tetherer. This is on her Acca base, which is 85% superwash merino, 15% Donegal nep. And this one is in her pavement colourway, which is a lovely sort of light grey, almost creamy base, with other tones of grey on top. And then there are some tweedy flecks in this yarn too, and I thought it was great as a sort of cut. So there's a lighter grey, and then obviously we move into this darker grey with the blues, and then the blue is echoed in this lovely sort of speckly yarn from Cauldron of Colours, and then onto this one from another one from Helen. So yeah, I thought that made a really lovely colour combination. And as I say, I'm so pleased with this shawl, and I picked it up after I recorded last Sunday, and I just became obsessed with knitting on it. I didn't really want to knit on anything else, and so I didn't. Most often on these channels we talk about our knitting successes, but I thought I'd like to talk to you about a project that was a bit of a failure. I was desperate this weekend to cast on a new sweater project, and I thought I was going to cast on a Sunset Highway, which is a pattern by Caitlin Hunter, who is Boylan Knitworks, and this has been on my list to make for ages, for the longest time, and I actually bought yarn for it probably well over a year ago, or at least the main body I had purchased yarn for. And the lovely Lee, who is Luli, has the Luli podcast, she is running a yoke along at the moment, and I thought this would be a perfect excuse to get this sweater on the needles. So I decided to do a little swatch in the week for this project, and it was a disaster. The Sunset Highway sweater, 4 colours are required, and there's 3 in that lovely sort of colourwork yoke, and then obviously the 4th is the main colour. And ages ago I'd purchased this gorgeous yarn from by Miranda May in her purple moon colour. Sorry, this has got a bit scruffed up in my bag. And this was going to be the main body of the sweater. And I picked out some other skeins from my stash. So I've got two here which are from a local dyer called the Old Piggery. They're both 50 gram skeins, but you don't use that much in some of the colourwork portions. And then I had this other lovely skein from Antler and Acorn. I thought they looked really nice together, so I swatched up for I started swatching for the Sunset Highway. This is as far as I got, and I love the play of these two colours together. And then I was bringing in that third colour, but that wasn't ending up being super successful, because a lot of the colours in here were also in this Antler and Acorn, and even though I only did a couple of rows, you can't really see the sort of colours because they're all just meshing and melding together. And then it occurred to me that I was working down towards the darkest colour. If we go back to the original pattern, one of the things that I love most about this is the striking sort of deep colour in the yoke against the light colour of the body, and that was completely the opposite to what I had picked out. And I hopped on over to Ravelry and had a look, and there are a couple of people who have done a reverse, so the dark sort of colour makes up the main part of the body, and then they had some lighter colours on the yoke. But I just didn't really like that look. There were nothing wrong with those projects at all. All of the Sunset Highway projects over on Ravelry I think are beautiful. There are some colour combinations that obviously I would be more attracted to than others, but they're all really fun in their own way. But the projects that I liked least were the ones where it was darker down the bottom and lighter at the top. So I realised I just wouldn't be happy with my sweater. My colour choices were just wrong for me personally. I was really disappointed with that because I was so desperate, and this project had been on the horizon for ages, but I just hadn't really thought it through when I picked out the yarn for the main part of the sweater. And yeah, I was feeling pretty gutted because I thought I was going to get 6 or so skeins out of my stash. Feeling a little bit grumpy on Thursday evening when I realised that the project that I wanted to cast on most over the weekend just wasn't going to happen. I didn't really have any sort of larger quantities of a lighter colour to sort of substitute in and rethink my colour choices. So the Sunset Highway has gone on the back burner again, and maybe I will look out for some yarn that I can use in the main body while I'm at Wonderwall next week. But all is not lost, and I have cast on a new project using 3 of the yarns that I picked out, these 3, and I'll talk more about that on my either on my cast on video or on my next video if I don't get round to publishing a cast on video. So I managed to rescue it in the end, but I thought I'd tell you my little tale of woe. It's always worth doing a little swatch to play with your colours, to really solidify what your project might look like. And as I say, there's nothing I quite like this little swatch. I like the way this orange is playing with the lighter colour there, but it just wasn't going to give me the effect that I wanted for my Sunset Highway. But lesson learned, and I need to really think and do a little bit more planning before I dive in and make yarn purchases in the future for a specific project. So on that note, I probably shouldn't have ended on that note, should I? But it does have a happy ending because I have found another lovely project which I am super excited about to use some of those yarns anyway. So yeah, all was not lost. But that is everything that I wanted to talk to you about today. I hope that you have a lovely week and you get to do some of the things that you enjoy. And until next time, great big woolly hugs to you all. Bye for now.